Good morning, Gary.
Good morning.
My name is Angus. Welcome to the presentation today on MSN WHS 200, Work Safely. So, great to see you today. Let's start off with a random fact. I'll go first. My background, my name is Angus. I've been in the WHS industry for the last 5 years. I started off as a health safety representative for my company at Hanwha. Was involved in a lot of health and safety committee meetings, done some further training, and it's got to the point where now I'm employed to deliver health and safety in the workplace, hence why I'm visiting you today in your bike mechanic workshop to catch you up on some WHS issues. A fun fact about myself, I enjoy scuba diving on the weekend. If you'd like to tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're here today.
To learn about the workshop. Make sure my workshop's nice and safe, so you can come through and make sure that I'm doing everything right. That sort of thing. And about me, I have done scuba diving before, but a long time ago. But my main hobby at the moment is model building.
Very nice.
Work on the bikes during the day, and do the model building at home at night, and remote control cars, and I like building them. I don't like racing them. So
So there's no you're not part of the club, or you don't go racing together.
No, I just like the building part's me 80%. The using them is 20%. So I like all the intricate stuff and
the attention to detail, hands-on, and I guess it must be quite fun. I guess seeing that end product where you get to I guess control it around, do you have a test track you can drive it on, or just around the house or around the backyard?
And then you can buy upgrades for it later on, so all good.
Excellent. Well, before we kick off into today's lesson on WHS, we'll start off with a bit of a, so today we're going to be covering a refresher. So some of your colleagues have sat through 3 lessons last week. I'm here to catch you up today on hazard identification and risk assessment, some risk control, and WHS participation in the workplace. Before we move further in the slides, we'll begin with some housekeeping. So, emergency exits in the event of a fire. We'll hear the fire alarm. We'll evacuate court smooth and steady. We'll exit the room, casually go downstairs, take it slow and steady, and there's a form-up point just outside, away from the building. In that case, we'll wait till the fireys come and deem the building safe before we come back and continue the lesson. First aid kits. We do have a defib and first aid kit just outside in the hallway. Please, if you feel a little bit ill or anything, just let me know and we can determine what to do in the situation. Amenities. So there is toilets outside just to the right. If you do need a break, just let me know and we can pause and I'll let you go and do whatever you need. Is there any questions before we begin?
No, I think I'm all good.
Okay. So just to get us thinking in the frame of risks in WHS, we'll begin with this interactive activity. As you can see, this has been an image taken from a workplace, just like in a normal warehouse. What we want to do is we want to actually think about having that frame of network mind on what is a risk and what the consequences can be. So using the image above, in case you don't like looking at the screen too much, I have printed off a copy for you. If you like, feel free to circle any risks or anything you do. I can give you a couple of minutes to have a look at the diagram. If there's anything you identify that you think might be deemed as a risk, please feel free to circle it down on the bit of paper. Or even if you feel like yelling at what you see that could be deemed as a risk. There's at least 5 on the image. Definitely feel free to, whenever you're ready.
I could just go through them with you if you like. That's rather the lady's dress. That's a hazard. She's going tangling hazard, I could say, or the dress getting caught into the conveyor.
Of course, definitely.
Loose clothing, so that could cause injuries to her.
Great observation.
Probably many injuries. depending on how it goes there.
She might lose her dress, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy moving that box, there's a hazard there of falling objects on top of him. He mustn't have checked properly before he tried to remove that box, or he tried to remove that box and the others were on top of it.
Excellent.
Yeah, the other guy lifting the box, he's not bending his knees properly, so he can cause like lower back injury or something like that.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. Looks like the forklift might be dropping a bit of oil up there.
Definitely.
That's a slipping hazard. Someone could cause quite an injury from that.
For sure.
And it looks like, is that electrical right on the wall with some wires hanging out?
So someone's pulled the complete plug out
Yeah,
and left some
electrical hazard on the wall there.
wires. And yeah, excellent. So yeah, great observations, and you can definitely tell you've got a good sense of what it like. You can identify the risks for sure. And yeah, definitely other ones to add. Both the lady and the guy who's got the awkward lifting posture. Yeah, one's got high heels and one's got flip flops, which. I mean, so you already identified 5. That was just the outlier, just in case for sneaky sticks. And depending on how you think of it as well, like the lady on her iPad could be a slight distraction. She should be in a safer area if she's on a screen, not looking at her surroundings. Excellent. Okay, so what we've done now, we've just done a walk around the workshop. These photos have been taken just in your very own bike mechanic workshop. And straight away, I've identified a few hazards in your workplace. Would you agree? Can you spot any hazards? Say in that first image on the left. Is there anything that sounds alarm bells to you in the sense of a hazard?
Possibly not labelled what they are.
Excellent.
Maybe they need to be in their own cabinet or something like that, like a fire cabinet.
For sure. Especially if it's a flammable material.
Yeah.
Stage, it could be looks a little bit like paint in the background as well. That
Yeah.
it should be stored somewhere that was on a container that was quite high up. It was like above chest height, so yeah, it could like fall and cause a bit of like a slipping hazard as well.
Yeah.
If paint's on the ground. Excellent. How about that middle image?
Yeah, to say that's the lifting hazard, that probably should be 2 people carrying that.
Excellent. Yeah, perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. And then lastly, that third image was a bit of a doozy I saw at the workshop.
It doesn't have a. It's supposed to have a protective cover right around it.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for. And when I traced down the plug into the wall, and it hasn't actually even been electrically integrity tested as well. So that's an added date. We'll have to make a note of that for next time the guy comes through to test and tag it. And yeah, a few other ones. It could be the guy who's got the manual handling in the middle. Like it could be a 2-person lift, but where he's walking around, there's definitely some tripping hazards as well. But no, excellent. Further on from so this was actually another one taken from the bike mechanic area downstairs. Is there anything, can you point out anything that is deemed dangerous, risky, anything that sounds alarm bells to you from this image?
Yeah, lots of tripping and slipping hazards.
Definitely. So yeah, what do we have here? So yeah, a major one is the oil spill on the floor. Like mechanics left the tools out on the floor as well. It's a tripping hazard. We've got a tool on the bench as well that can fall and like bang someone's toes. The power cable can definitely trip. And lastly, yes, a heavier bike is on a stand that's not properly secure. So yeah, that can totally fall on someone and cause some dramas. If you were to think further on from risks, if someone was to ignore that oil spill or the tripping hazard, can you think of some implications that might happen to that person that might have a slip or a fall? Like, is there anything that might happen?
or injury for sure on all different types of injury. But then I'm probably up for like a lawsuit or something like that.
Definitely, especially workplace injury, and like Comcare might have to come in, or that type of thing. Definitely, exactly. That's a very good point. Yeah, okay, so we're going to do building on from this knowledge that we've built from the risks we've found in the bike mechanic workshop. We're going to be having a look at some risks identified in terms of just to get a rough idea of the theory behind types of hazards, because the way they're broken down into different categories. So, like for example, so this one, this is a electrical hazard. This is a cable that it's got its insulation frayed, leaving some exposed copper strands that, someone, if that's plugged into the wall and some voltage coming through, someone might get shocked. So this is the process we're going along. So if you have a look at this next image, this is another type of hazard. Is there anything that you think, what type of hazard do you think this might be?
The main one would be the tripping hazard.
Exactly.
I think,
Yeah, very nice. And let's go building on to maybe similar to that oil spill on the floor.
Slipping,
Slip hazard. Can even be deemed as a chemical hazard in terms of if that's a toxic substance on the ground, that can definitely be a chemical hazard as well. In this one?
Cutting or very sharp objects.
Yep. And that can, definitely, if that can cause a lot of like blood loss, and we might even have to evacuate someone to the hospital for sure. And this one.
Dangerous chemicals.
And this might be coming hand in hand to the chemical spill in the top right corner for sure. And lastly, this one.
Tired. Drowsy.
So this is, I agree, this is the psychological hazard, which if a worker is under a certain level of stress, been working alone, doing extended hours, they might build up that cumulative fatigue and they might fall asleep on the job. Hopefully you don't fall under that risk during this presentation today. We'll keep it short and sweet, but excellent. So to summarize what we've covered in terms of for the practical risk identification from downstairs. So just to summarize, so a hazard is anything that can cause harm to people and property. And the risk is the chance or probability of harm if people or property is exposed to that hazard. So again, for example, referencing back to that bike shop incident, say the hazard might be an oil spill, the risk could be a slip injury. Another one, the hazard could be a frayed power cable, and the risk is a electric shock. So just to summarize, a hazard is anything that can cause harm, and a risk is how likely that hazard will actually hurt someone. So hierarchy of control. Just to stop me from boring you with my talking, I'll play you a YouTube video that summarizes the hierarchy of control quite nicely. So I'll put this here, and we'll just watch this video. It's a couple of minutes, but it's an incredibly entertaining video.
The hierarchy of controls. The level of risk associated with an event can be established by assessing the chance of the event happening, likelihood, and the potential harm or damage the event could cause, consequences. Plan and implement controls to eliminate or reduce risks before you proceed with your task. Some types of controls are more effective than others. Use the hierarchy of controls to choose the best method. Eliminating the hazard, physically removing it, is the most effective hazard control. Substitution, the second most effective hazard control, involves replacing something that produces a hazard, similar to elimination, with something that does not produce a hazard. The third most effective means of controlling hazards is engineered controls. These do not eliminate hazards, but rather isolate people from hazards. Administrative controls are changes to the way people work. Examples of administrative controls include procedure changes, employment training, and installation of signs and warning labels such as those in the Hazardous Chemical Information System. Personal protective equipment, PPE, is the last line of defence. It acts as a barrier to limit your exposure to hazards. PPE must be used to supplement higher levels of control. As you go about your work, continue to monitor the effectiveness of those controls and look for any changes to the task or work area. For more safety and training solutions, visit pertrain.com.au.
Excellent. So yeah, that video was a good summary of hierarchy of controls. So from the video, just to briefly touch on the certain points that were raised. Yeah, we want to start from that top, essentially that upside down pyramid. The first thing we want to do is physically remove a hazard. That's effectively the most effective. Let's say if we remove the hazard entirely, such as if we remove the clutter, the unused tools to eliminate trip hazards, there's no way you're going to have that trip. Furthermore, if you eliminate the need to manually degrease parts by using disposable pre-clean parts, that's removing that chemical risk as well. Moving down on that pyramid, substitution is next. This is essentially where we replace the hazard with something safer. For example, you might replace a solvent-based cleaner with a water-based degreaser. Something else you might do in the bike mechanic workshop is, you might swap out some noisy tools for some quieter electrical alternatives. You might use plastic tire levers instead of the sharp metal ones. Furthermore, you move to engineering controls. This is where you essentially isolate people from the hazard. For example, you might install a tool storage rack to keep heavy tools off benches, to prevent them from getting knocked over and falling down on the ground and bagging people's toes. You might, engineering control, you might use some drip trays for oils and solvents. And you might even engineer some bike stands that securely held on the bike in an upright and stable position when you're working on them. You also have administrative controls, and this is essentially like protocols put in place that change the way people work. For example, you might introduce a schedule for regular cleaning of the workshop. A common one could be a Friday afternoon cleanup of everything. You might do a daily checkup or walkthrough and conduct like floor checks to make sure there's no oil spills or anything left out that shouldn't be out. If there has been a spill recently, you might use some hazard signs around wet or oily surfaces just to give someone a brief heads up of, watch out, there's something coming up. And lastly, essentially what you're doing today is, you can be briefed and given some training on WHS issues. You can be given lessons on safe lifting techniques. The list is endless. The least effective, but one of the most commonly used ones is PPE. That's that last line of defense that protect the worker using that protective equipment. For example, you might have nitrile gloves for handling solvents. You might actually have work gloves for doing manual tools. Definitely using safety glasses when grinding or using compressed air. And lastly, steel cap boots. That's a common one, just to prevent those foot injuries in case of a drop tool or drop bike. Is there any questions on the hierarchy of control? It seems to make sense.
No, it does, It's obviously, you could also maybe think of making areas where, like, for walking areas and working areas, so that people stay out of where I work, something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Because does your bike shop's got the yellow lines to isolate people from?
No, well, not yet, but I'm sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's something you should suggest to the manager. You might get a pay rise, maybe. Excellent. So the first part of the lesson, we've definitely looked into risks. And so now we want to look at risk control measures. So using that hierarchy of control, I'll put a few images up on the board. So we've identified hazards, for example, and moving on, this image on the left is an example of a control you might use. Can you think of what level that's at and the reason for it possibly?
PPE,
Definitely, excellent. That's a great answer.
and if you're using chemicals or something to protect your skin,
Excellent.
or grease, like you're working on the bike, I suppose, so you don't get
Yeah, it's smelly hands.
on your hands at the end of the day.
Go up to the wife and
Yeah.
you've got nice clean soft hands still.
Yeah.
How about the middle image?
Is that sort of a risk or a?
So we're thinking about controls now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it wouldn't be a PPE, for example, but it might be the next level down. If you can remember, no stress if you can,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, I can't remember much about the table.
of course, yeah, there's a lot of information to take in, and we're trying to cram it in 30 minutes. But so the web force sign that generally falls under that admin control. So it's not we've not engineered any changes. It just an admin control is just a sort of like an introduction into the system, to sort of give people a heads up of what's in store. And lastly, the lifting aid on the right hand side. Can you think of what level of control that might fall under?
Was there an engineering one?
Yes,
Absolutely.
perfect. Again, if you can introduce an engineering control, perfect answer in terms of that's going to prevent people from that heavy manual lifting, or again, if it's solo work and you can't find a second person to help you with the lift, yeah, definitely use a manual lifting aid. Excellent. And now we're thinking about further examples in the bike shop of applying controls. So we've come across this oil spill just underneath the bike. We want to clean it up. Can you think of something we might implement that would be an effective control?
Well, I know you can get things like oil spill kits and things like that, but you probably, maybe first up, put a sign up to protect, and then if you have to go and get something to clean it up so that no one else can trip over it.
Perfect.
Or slip on it. So,
Yep.
And then clean it up with whatever kit you've got in there.
Excellent. That's the perfect answer. That's exactly what I was looking for. And we haven't touched on it as well, but yeah, you might report it to your supervisor as well, just to give them a heads up that so and so there's a spill, just for notification. And further on, again, it's not in this lesson, but yeah, fill out incident reports and stuff like that. How about that image on the right? Say we've been using a grinder and we've identified there's been a nick in the cable with exposed copper. Is it like what would you do in this incident in terms of controlling this this risk?
If it was safe enough to do, I'd definitely turn it off at the power point.
Yes.
It looks like it's pretty close to the plug, so you have to be really careful.
For sure.
Use your gloves, turn it off, and then unplug it and either tag it, report it to the supervisors. Or
Excellent. That's textbook answer, and that's exactly what I was looking for. Quarantine and report to the supervisor. So moving on from controls, we're going to start thinking about participation of WHS in the workplace. So I briefly touched on it at the start of the lesson about in event of an emergency, the fire exits and where the first aid kits is. It is important to know these just in the event of emergency. A lot of time there's a situation. It can be quite chaotic, and a lot of people just act on that instinct. And it's definitely good to know exactly where your fire extinguishers are and where the first aid stations are, or safety showers. Especially if you can attend them in like a calm manner as well. It definitely adds to the situation. It doesn't make them any worse. We will, after this lesson, have another walk around the bike mechanic workshop just to go through some finer details on like what fire extinguishers were as well. Okay, so we're going to think about some scenarios. So I think I had a print off just in case you don't like looking at the screen. So what do we have here? So this is like the scenario. So just to quickly describe it in a summary. so customers come in and they've tripped over a hose that was left out across the entryway in the shop. The customer's fallen and hurt their knee. Some staff has helped out and checked for injuries and offered first aid. Post making sure like the customer is fine. Can you think of something that you might do to the area prior to like WHS or like work health coming through?
I'll definitely clean up the air hose if that's what you actually tripped over or the customer tripped over. So I'll definitely clean that up and move it out of the way. Possibly warning sign.
Yep.
Back there. And definitely report the incident.
Perfect.
Up to chain of command.
Excellent. And yeah, so you're looking after an apprentice as well. They've just come to you suddenly with a hand injury. They've cut their hand after using a sharp tool. There's a bit of blood everywhere. Just briefly, is there anything you're doing in this situation that you think might help in the case of that scenario?
Maybe, yeah. So the first aid's already been done, but like check the tools that he was using and see if was a fault with any of the tooling or anything like that.
Excellent.
Yeah,
for sure, definitely. And I think first aid is the big one. Make sure you grab something from the first aid kit, document what you've taken, band-aids, whatnot. It wouldn't be your job to inspect how deep it is, to see if it needs stitches or whatnot, but stem that blood flow and it might even, if it's bad enough in a worse enough spot, it could even call 000 even.
Yeah.
So reporting hazards. So I'm going to give you a quick scenario, and I'll give you so reporting hazards. If you've come across something you might be deemed by the manager to do an incident report form, I'll quickly touch on the things you want to cover on this report form is basically a description of the incident, was anyone injured, and the plan of action that you've taken. Just bear in mind, this can be a legal document in the event of a serious enough injury. So if you're filling out an incident report, please ensure that you write legibly. Try and keep it quite factual. Don't be trying to write some made up movie type scenarios, but your manager will definitely be able to cover some incident reports a little bit in greater detail after this lesson. Okay, so we'll do a quick activity to almost finish up. I'll give you a quick clue. So we've been in this lesson. All of a sudden you hear a fire alarm going off and someone running down the hallway screaming fire, 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 running like a headless chicken to evacuate. I'm going to give you some cutouts. If you want to see if you can put these in order of what you think would be in the right situation, like in the right sequence of start to finish.
So fire
be number one. Exactly.
I'd probably say exit. What they need to get away from the fire or follow the fire exits.
Yep.
And on the way, either do that. Actually, I'll probably do that.
For sure.
But call the fire department, and then once everyone's out, or a certain amount, make sure everybody's out.
Yep.
And then first aid if required.
Excellent. And the way you've broken down that scenario, I think I can definitely see you're thinking about things in logical order, and it definitely makes a lot of sense, and you think clearly. Good work. So definitely agree. On the way out, you just break out, especially if you come across a fire alarm, just to alert the rest of the building. The person who was running obviously had forgot to do that, but you want to alert everyone so that everyone can evacuate safely. And definitely agree that I do agree that 000 would probably be outside once you're out safe inside in the building. And lastly, once everyone's out in a safe area, the smoke injuries or if anyone's like tripped over and you've got like some swollen ankle or anything, you can treat that effectively. Excellent. So thank you for your participation today in the lesson. You've done excellent. We'll quickly wrap up with a quick summary. Can you name a quick hazard that you identified today in the workshop?
The oil spill.
Perfect. That's what I was thinking on top of my head as well. We saw quite a few like down there. In terms of so you identified oil spill, how can you stop it from hurting someone? In terms of thinking about those risk controls.
Yeah, signage and cleaning it up are probably the two.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And lastly, in the event of a fire or an emergency, is there anything in particular that you should do in the event of an emergency?
Evacuate via your exits and if required 000 or apply first aid if required, and maybe if maybe you can report it depending on what sort of emergency it is.
Excellent. Perfect. Thanks again for your participation today. Awesome work today. I can send you a copy of these notes for your future reference, and please feel free to contact me anytime that you need assistance for WHS.
Thank you very much.
Excellent.